It starts with a sound most batsmen never forget. Not the roar of the crowd, not the call of the umpire. A sharp, violent hiss. A white cricket ball ripping through the air at more than 160 kilometers per hour. Before the human brain can fully process what it's seeing, the ball has already passed. A blur, a shockwave. Then the unmistakable crack as leather slams into wood. Or worse, crashes into helmet or body. Your heart rate spikes. Your grip tightens. Instinct takes over. Because this is not just fast bowling. This is speed weaponized. This is Brett Lee, a man who chose pace in a sport where pace destroys bodies, shortens careers, and leaves scars far deeper than statistics ever show. From a restless kid in suburban Australia to the fastest bowler cricket has ever officially recorded, Brett Lee's journey is not just about wickets or records. It is about obsession, pain, resilience, reinvention, and legacy. This is the story of a man who risked everything just to be faster than everyone else. Australia has always been obsessed with fast bowling, not admired it, not appreciated it, worshipped it. From Dennis Lillee charging in with raw aggression, to Jeff Thompson's slingshot action that terrified entire batting lineups, pace was never just a weapon for Australia. It was an identity. Fast bowling became the country's warning to the rest of the cricketing world. We will not wait for your mistakes. We will force them. By the late 1990s, Australia was already the most dominant team in world cricket. But it was still searching for something extreme. Something that could overwhelm opponents instantly. Something that could turn pressure into panic within seconds. That something arrived in the form of Brett Lee. Lee wasn't subtle. He wasn't conservative. He didn't bowl within safe limits. He bowled as if speed itself was chasing him. When Brett Lee ran in, crowds leaned forward instinctively. Batsmen stepped back before the ball was even released. This wasn't swing bowling. This wasn't chess. This was survival. Brett Lee was born on November 8, 1976 in Wollongong, New South Wales. Cricket was part of everyday life in the Lee household. His father, Bob Lee, was a club cricketer who introduced Brett and his brother Shane to the game early. Competition wasn't forced. It was natural. Backyard cricket, local clubs, constant movement. Even as a child, Brett Lee stood out for one reason: energy. He ran everywhere. He bowled endlessly, and almost instinctively, every delivery was faster than the last. He didn't dream of being elegant or clever. He dreamed of speed. As a teenager, Lee's raw pace was impossible to ignore. But it was also impossible to control. Coaches admired his ability to bowl fast, yet worried about his accuracy and his future. Medical staff warned that his body might not survive the stress of his action. Stress fractures arrived early. Foot injuries followed. Ankles struggled under the violent force of his run-up and delivery stride. Domestic cricket was ruthless. There were seasons when Brett Lee was overlooked entirely. Other bowlers were picked ahead of him. Safer options, more economical choices, players considered more reliable. For many cricketers, this is where doubt creeps in, where dreams soften. For Brett Lee, rejection only sharpened the obsession. Instead of slowing down to fit the system, he worked harder to force his way in. Extra gym sessions strengthened his legs. Sprint training sharpened his explosiveness. Long bowling spells after training became routine. He wasn't reckless, he was committed. Speed wasn't a phase. It was his identity. The moment that changed everything arrived in December 2000. Australia versus India. The Boxing Day test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. One of the biggest stages in world cricket. Brett Lee was called into the side with little build-up and no easing-in period. From his first spell, chaos followed. Short balls flew past helmets. Batsmen reacted late, unsure whether to duck or play. The crowd felt it instantly. This was not normal pace. This was something different, something unsettling. Lee finished his debut test with 5 wickets. But the numbers didn't fully capture what had happened. Brett Lee hadn't just taken wickets, he had introduced fear. The cricketing world woke up asking the same question: who is this guy? From that moment, Brett Lee was no longer a project. He was a weapon. Fast bowling at the highest level is not just physical. It is psychological warfare. Brett Lee understood this instinctively. Every run-up sent a message. Every bouncer asked a question, and the question was always the same. Are you ready? Unlike many fast bowlers, Lee didn't retreat after being hit. He responded by bowling faster. He bowled short again. He stared batsmen down. He removed comfort from the game. Where others searched for perfection, Brett Lee applied relentless pressure. That uncertainty, never knowing what was coming next, broke footwork, destroyed timing, and rushed even the best players in the world. Between 2002 and 2006, Brett Lee entered his most feared phase. This was pure pace, delivered without compromise. Batsmen across formats described the same sensation, being rushed even when prepared. Good length balls felt short. Defensive shots felt late. Even survival felt uncertain. Crowds didn't just watch Brett Lee, they reacted to him. Every bouncer produced noise. Every shattered stump produced silence. Fast bowling became spectacle, and Brett Lee was the headline act. In 2003, Brett Lee etched his name into history. During the ICC Cricket World Cup, he delivered a ball measured at 161.1 kilometers per hour, the fastest officially recorded delivery in international cricket. It surpassed Shoaib Akhtar's record and placed Brett Lee alone at the top of the speed chart. That moment transformed his career. He was no longer just an Australian fast bowler. He became the global benchmark for pace. Young fast bowlers around the world tried to copy his run-up. His aggression, his fearlessness. Speed now had a number, and Brett Lee owned it. The 2003 World Cup itself was a demonstration of Australian dominance. Australia went undefeated throughout the tournament, crushing opponents with ruthless efficiency. Brett Lee played a key role with early breakthroughs and hostile spells that shattered batting lineups before they could settle. The final against India was one-sided, and Brett Lee stood as a symbol of Australia's overwhelming power. By the end of that tournament, it was clear Brett Lee was not a temporary phenomenon. He was a permanent force. Australia's bowling attack during this era became legendary. Glenn McGrath provided relentless accuracy. Shane Warne applied intelligence and inevitability. Jason Gillespie offered bounce and control. And Brett Lee brought chaos. He was not always the most economical bowler. He was not always the most precise. But he was the enforcer. When Australia needed momentum, they turned to Brett Lee. When partnerships needed breaking, they handed him the ball. World Cups in 2003 and 2007 followed. Series victories piled up. Opposition teams didn't just prepare for Australia. They prepared specifically for Brett Lee. The Ashes, however, were different. Pressure heavier, crowds louder, mistakes unforgivable. England didn't just want runs, they wanted survival. Brett Lee's spells in Ashes cricket were filled with hostility. Short balls followed by full-speed Yorkers, delivered with intensity that turned matches into battles of will. Ashes cricket wasn't polite. It was war, and Brett Lee thrived in that environment. But speed always demands payment. As the years passed, the physical toll became impossible to ignore. Stress fractures returned. Ankles broke down again. Feet cracked under pressure. Rehabilitation became routine. Time away from the game grew longer. Whispers followed him everywhere. Is he finished? Mentally, it was brutal. Watching matches from the sidelines. Watching younger bowlers emerge. Feeling replaceable in a sport that never waits. For many fast bowlers, this is where careers quietly end. Brett Lee refused to disappear. Instead, he evolved. In the second half of his career, Brett Lee became something rare, a fast bowler who aged intelligently. He adjusted his run-up. He reduced stress on his body. He learned when not to bowl at maximum pace. Swing and seam replaced raw violence. Planning replaced chaos. In one-day internationals, he flourished. Brett Lee finished his ODI career with 380 wickets, one of the highest totals in history. In T20 cricket, he mastered control under pressure, becoming a specialist in new ball spells and death overs. Yorkers replaced bouncers. Precision replaced recklessness. This wasn't decline. This was intelligence. The Indian Premier League introduced Brett Lee to a new generation of fans. Different countries, different conditions, louder crowds, shorter formats. The same intensity. Brett Lee adapted once again, becoming a truly global icon, respected far beyond Australia. Off the field, Brett Lee surprised many. Music became a serious passion. Rock bands, albums, live performances. He explored acting, appearing in films, particularly in India. Charity work became central to his post-playing identity. Despite everything he achieved, he remained approachable, smiling and grounded. Behind the fire was humility. Brett Lee retired with over 700 international wickets, 2 World Cup medals, and the record for the fastest delivery ever bowled. But numbers alone do not define his legacy. His legacy lives in moments. Moments that made crowds rise. Moments that made batsmen flinch. Moments that redefined what pace could mean in cricket. Brett Lee did not fade away. He chose his exit with dignity, respect, and gratitude. Today, every fast bowler chasing extra speed is chasing a shadow he left behind. His career teaches us something simple and powerful. Passion demands sacrifice, speed demands courage, and legends are not born perfect. They are built, ball by ball. So the next time you hear that violent hiss cutting through the air, remember the man who made speed unforgettable. Brett Lee, Australia's fastest weapon,